Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. As we approach the Olympics, we are looking at some of the biblical references to the athletic competitions of the days of the biblical writers, and we're also looking at some of the inspirational stories of faith that have taken place in the modern Olympic era. Now, when we talk about Christian athletes and the Olympics, the stories normally fall into one of three categories. First of all, there are those stories just about a well-known athlete and says, oh, well, he's a Christian. And sometimes they're a little far-fetched, to be honest. When you have an athlete who is living in an immoral situation and suddenly you see an article claiming that he's been a Christian the whole time, I don't think that really brings a lot of glory to Jesus Christ. But then you have great stories about when an Olympian overcomes adversity through their faith, say poverty or coming through great illness or sickness or injury or whatever, and their faith enables them to triumph over it. And then there are Olympians whose faith is a crucial factor in propelling them to victory, sometimes against all the odds. Well, actually, the athlete we're talking about today does not fit into any of those categories. Abby D'Agostino is an American female distance runner, runs the 5,000 and 10,000 meters. And she certainly doesn't come from a poverty background. She attended Dartmouth, one of the Ivy League colleges in the United States. In fact, she is the most successful Ivy League athlete ever in terms of victories and awards. And in 2012, she missed out on an Olympic spot by just 0.19 seconds. The Americans have these trials, and it doesn't matter. You can be the best runner in the country. If you don't finish in the top 3 in the Olympic trials, you will not compete in the Olympics. So you can be the world record holder and have an off day on the day of the Olympic trials. Well, Abby D'Agostino, remember, the 5,000 meters, so a distance race, and she missed out on Olympic qualification for the London Games by less than 0.2 of a second. But she continued as a college athletic star and was hugely popular. Nevertheless, she reached a stage where she was just burnt out. Just the pressure of trying to be perfect in her studies, in her athletic career, it just got too much for her, and she just couldn't handle it any longer. And even though she was already a Christian, that was the moment when she turned her athletics and her running over to Jesus. And she says, Lord, I'm putting this in your hands. Win or lose, please put me where you want me to be so I can glorify you. Well, 4 years later, that turned out to be the 2016 Olympics in Rio. This time, Abby D'Agostino qualified to represent the United States in the 5,000 meters race. And during her first heat, they were 3,000 meters into the race, 2,000 meters still to go, whenever Nikki Hamblin, a New Zealand runner, fell to the track right in front of Abby. And Abby tripped over her and fell also, injuring herself in the process. Now, we think we know what's going to happen next. She's going to get up and she's going to win the race, or she's going to get up and she's going to gamely complete even though she's injured. Well, that's sort of right, but that's not the whole story. What happened was Abby D'Agostino got up from her fall, and instead of immediately running to catch up with the rest of the pack to complete the race, she turned around and she began to help Nikki Hamblin up and says, come on, you've trained all year for this. We're not going to win, but we're going to finish this race. And these two young women, both of them injured, both of them bleeding, encouraged one another, continued round the track. They finished way behind everybody else, the last 2 places, but they ran the last 2,000 meters, even though they were injured and bleeding. And everybody thought, well, that's it. It's great. It's inspiring. It's wonderful that somebody like Abby D'Agostino, and her first thought was not about crossing the finishing line. Her first thought was about helping somebody else to their feet. What actually happened then was that the Olympic Committee met and decided that because of this extreme sporting behavior, both girls, even though they had finished last in their heat, would qualify for the final. However, there's no fairy story here for Abby, because her injury that she had picked up when she fell meant that she could not compete in the final. Both her and Nikki Hamblin received special fair play sporting awards from the Olympic Committee, but they didn't receive Olympic medals. However, what Abby did find was this, that incident gave her an opportunity to speak about her faith in Jesus Christ, that she believed she was on that track for one reason, and that was to be used by God. And when she turned back to help the competitor, that was what God wanted her to do. And she ended up testifying about this to millions of people. It became a major story at the time. In fact, Abby D'Agostino, through failing and finishing last, probably had the opportunity to speak to more people about Jesus than if she had won the Olympic gold medal. Abby will not be competing at the Olympics this year. It may be that she won't compete at that level again. I don't know. But what I do know is that God had her in the right place in the 2016 Rio Olympics and put Abby in a place where she could speak out to the glory of God, even in the midst of finishing last and apparent defeat and failure. I pray that this will build you up today. May you have a great day. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.